All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to week number 52. My name is Mr. McLogan, and this is Open Live Q&A, where I take your questions and answer them. And also wanted to talk to you a little bit about a road to a million subscribers. And one of the things I mentioned about my email is, why some of those things are kind of important to me. And it's not what you probably think. And I'm going to go ahead and explain that in a little bit. But I do want to say hello and welcome to Jensen and Mr. Bread, Gaiman and Hayden, RMA7, Melinda, Blue Line God, Dude Gamer. Thank you so much. A lot of people have gamer in their screening. That is Aish Syed. That is something new. I guess I don't know. I guess maybe it's just maybe not really new because I've been seeing that's been around for a while, but maybe it was just kind of one of those interesting things where a lot of people on the stream were there. Any cheese suggestions? No, I don't have any. Stop it. Anwar and Luis and Ty Guy, Cappuccino, George Washington. Wow, this is amazing. So hopefully everybody is doing great tonight. I am ready for the stream. I am actually on my spring break, so very excited about that, where at least I can do this live stream and not have to worry about going to bed and wrapping up like grading or preparing for the next day. So it's actually just one of those nice, probably one of my favorite open live Q&As, because I just don't have to worry about school and all the other things that go on, which I know many of you guys can probably relate with tests, and you have all the classes and everything that's going on. So it's nice just to be able to do a live Q&A and not have to worry about all the stresses that come with going to school the next day. So, I know we have spring break already, even though I live in Jacksonville, Florida. So it's not really as much of a spring break as it was like when I previously lived in Michigan, and all we wanted to do was, get into the warm. It has been some pretty nice weather, though. So I am hoping to enjoy it for this week. And also with the school year, how it's been, I think it'll take a break away anytime we can. So, if this is your first time joining the live stream, basically what I'll do is I take questions that are submitted into my Google form, which is in the description below. So if you would like to submit a question to me for my upcoming live stream or next live stream, then please feel free to go ahead and check out the description down below. And then also I have a Discord server that you can go ahead and log into also to get real-time questions answered. Well, maybe not close to real time. But again, it's a community based on students just like you. So I always ask students, to submit questions, ask for questions, help students out. It's really just the power of the community is really with the numbers of people being able to, ask for help as well as to give help. So feel free to go and check that out. Obviously, I only answer questions every Sunday night. So if you're looking for something a little bit more detailed, or if I don't get to your question, which I didn't get to a lot of questions this week, and at the end of the stream, I'll explain why I wasn't able to get to some of your questions. Because I think one of the things that students always ask me, I'll get emails all the time. They're like, hey, you didn't answer my question. And I'm like, I can't answer everybody's question. There are some definite things that you probably want to know of why maybe I don't get to some questions over others. And so I'll kind of talk about that at the end. But, obviously when you go to the link, I kind of describe a little in pretty good detail, at least I would believe, of what you should expect, as well as how you should submit your questions for them to be on the live stream. But again, I'm only cover anywhere from 10 to 20 questions each and every week. And, but first I want to kind of talk about 1 million subscribers, because one of the things I was thinking about was, I was like, man, for as long as I've been on YouTube, I have never really cared about subscriber numbers. I mean, I used to upload 20 videos a day. I wouldn't even title the videos, and I would just upload them, no thumbnails, no title, and I just like threw them on YouTube. Like gaining subscribers or gaining like a following, or, it just wasn't really anything that, I was, I really cared for. But my mindset has kind of shifted, and I also kind of thought about this a little bit. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it is not really about me and 1 million subscribers. But I know that a lot of people, when they look into 1 million subscribers, or they look into, any kind of achievement, they think of that as like, they put that on like a pedestal, right? And it's like, it is an amazing achievement, which it is. But I think there's something more to aspiring to reaching the goal of 1 million subscribers. And it's something that I kind of came across from a Jim Rohn quote. And basically the quote was, it's not so much about, and there's very many variations from other people that have said very similar things, but for some reason, the way that he said it really just kind of struck a chord with me was it's not so much about like achieving the goal, but it's really about who you become on the road, like the journey, right? And people like enjoy the journey, but it really is like who you become to achieve that goal. And it really got me thinking, it's like, I could really relate to that because I don't really care about the million subscribers. I enjoy making videos. I enjoy helping students with their math. I enjoy reading your comments. I enjoy going live, on Sunday night and answering your guys' questions and saying hello to Dude Gamer and Alan, and just like people all over the world. I think that's like absolutely amazing for me to be able to do, as well as to help students with their questions. So like the million subscribers is, or just, your subscriber numbers is really kind of a byproduct on that. But the one thing what I was thinking about with this is like, I've gained a lot of, I've gained a lot of subscribers because I've helped people with their math, right? And, that's been very beneficial for a lot of students. A lot of people, have told me like they're, my videos, the following and help that's, helped them out and, gained subscribers here and there for that. But, when you look at anybody that has achieved a large audience on YouTube, you have to evolve. You have to keep on creating better content. You have to creating new content, right? And you just have to get better at your craft. And I really kind of thought about that. Like, I could probably get 1 million subscribers just doing exactly what I'm doing, just doing my math videos that I teach in my class, doing my Sunday night live stream. But to really kind of reach to that next level, I really that's who I want to become. That's who, I want to become a better teacher. I want to teach other things than accept what I'm just teaching inside the classroom, make better videos, have a better edit, better thumbnails. And I really realized like this evolution of this process of me achieving that's really what's important about achieving the 1 million subscribers, because I know to achieve that, that's what I have to do. And then everything kind of switched and I was like, oh, this is actually a good live stream, because this is the same thing when students are achieving, like they want to get their A, right? Or they want to pass the class. And I was like, that's exactly it. Because guys, it's not, it's not about the A. It's not about the grade, right? It's about doing what you're supposed to be doing to be a better and stronger student, right? And now, of course, we know there's benefits to having an A, right? We know that, there's going to be scholarships and your GPA, and, your parents and everything, your self-esteem, and there's all those kind of benefits to getting better grades. But in reality, I think the goal of like when you get to those more difficult classes and really kind of putting that foundation of like what is it you need to do to be an A student, to get the best possible grade. And I think when you kind of go through that process, especially those more difficult classes, that it's really not about achieving the A, it's about doing everything you're supposed to be doing, right? About, doing math consistently, getting help when you need to get help. Those are what the A students are doing, right? Putting in the work, putting in the effort, studying and reviewing. And it's not just about people that's like, oh, they're good at math or that comes easy. But it's about like when you get to those courses where you start to struggle, it's like, what are you going to do? And I really feel that there's that difference where a lot of people just are always shooting for A's. I have a lot of students in my class that they just care about the A. They don't care about anything else, what they need to do. They just want the A. And, I get it, right? I mean, obviously it makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure probably some of you would just be like, yeah, I just want the A. I don't really want anything else, just give me the A. And that's why I wanted to talk about this tonight, because, it's not about the A. And obviously we know that the A brings a lot of value, but it's about creating those systems and routines about being an A student. And that path to achieving the A, that's what's going to set you up for a foundation of success in and outside of the math classroom. So I thought that was something interesting. Hopefully you guys maybe benefited, from that. But yeah, I thought it was something interesting that I kind of took from a goal from my own mind. And I was like, oh, well, and then kind of put it into a little bit more of my own perspective. And hi, Blue Green Rocks, just another, that's good. And yeah, and then I kind of wanted to relate a little bit to the math. Alan, I saw exactly on your divide two sides triangle. If you submit it into the Google form, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm not sure if you already did that as well. So, was learning it. And okay, I'm not okay with it. I wanted to learn it, so I'm trying next person. Hey, very good, Linda. That's awesome. And I'm sure that was really, really hard to probably do to learn it, but I wanted it. It's not okay. Yeah. And, I mean, everything is, there's the important things of, putting, what is it you're trying to achieve? And, cause I've done this too. Like there's, when I wanted to become a math teacher, like, yeah, I just wanted the good grade. Like I didn't care about anything else. Right. And obviously for a math teacher, that's kind of a little bad because, ended up what I had was I got to a certain level in math and then, I didn't understand really anything. And I had to go back and relearn a whole bunch of stuff because I was just fixated on getting the best grade and then moving on. Right. And I've talked about that in earlier streams. There's a time and a place where you just need to get what you need to get and move on from there. You don't need to over focus and over stress about everything because you can't do everything. But I think it's really important when you look at, what you're trying to achieve and why you're trying to achieve it, and just kind of put those in perspective and look at that path that you're really on. So I was homeschooled before YouTube existed. Tutors like you and YouTube are really power students. Trust me, I know. That's very good. Yeah, I know. It's it would be amazing to think about what school would have been like if I had YouTube or just anything outside of my book. Although I did have my mom, which is, that was kind of like a cheating a little bit, to have a math teacher at your home, but I still struggle with math, it's like, so it wasn't like all fine, and daisies. Cause it was still things that, I struggle. And of course, like in high school, you don't want to share everything. Right. So, as far as your, struggles with math or misunderstandings and stuff like that. And then also I think there's a good, reach and pull, like, you gotta struggle with things. You're not going to be, you're not going to overcome anything if you're just always handed the answers, or handed the explanations. Like it's that process of thinking through and working through and struggle that I think a lot of people need to experience to really try to understand how to work through things on their own. So from there. But yeah, even just that idea, I remember stressing so hard trying to understand math and not having like YouTube or not having anything else to like look at, and just trying to like staring at the book. I was go to this. This live stream was typically my live streams go on for about an hour. So I'll get into I like to get into the questions here in the next, 10 minutes. I think there's 10 questions I have from here. So yeah, then these are all questions that were submitted. Typically, I do like to get into some questions. Andreas, I see that I have a question or at least a polynomial you submitted. I'm not sure what your question is on that, but, or, Yulika, Lakshard, that, when you have, certain questions, I always, when I get live people, I want to add in. So a lot of times I do like to do a little open questions. And if I do have some time at the end, I'll be more than happy to answer, to take in some of your guys' questions. And physics, no, I do not. That would just be as far as your vectors. And yes, you can just go ahead and add those vectors, just add the components with each other. Did you plan on being a math teacher, Ty Guy? Yes, I did plan on being a math teacher. I actually still remember the day, or not the day, but I still remember the class when we were like signing things out. It was like a senior psychology course. And I still remember like saying, yeah, I wanted to be like a math teacher. And that was kind of like my first like foot in the sand. This is what I was planning on doing. And I kind of like didn't deviate from that. Wow, the bike bullied him. Are you talking about my bike? Well, yeah, it's actually, my scabs and everything is looking much better. For those of you that maybe weren't here, if you look at my live streams 2 weeks ago, I was very self-conscious about my face 2 weeks ago. My live stream, I had a little biking accident and hit my face on the pavement, and I was not looking good 2 weeks ago. I was very swollen, bloodied, and I even turned off the camera. I was just like, man, I can't even put myself on camera. But we ended up doing the live stream. It worked out all right. Do you ever watch other math tutorials on YouTube, like just for fun or to see competitions? Yes, I don't really treat it as competition, but yeah, there's I think the cool thing about math is, and especially now, like in the YouTube world, you get to see how other people interpret things. Up to this point, like the only way you would have understood how other people like understood things was like obviously having a math conversation about them. And that would typically only happen in a math class, right? Or when you're with like a study group or like talking about the math problem. So it was very kind of limited and time, sensitive, right? So the cool thing about now is like when I'm reteaching a concept or, when I'm going through a class or maybe just, maybe I get stuck on a problem or anything else, like, yeah, I think it's amazing. I can look at how other people interpret their questions or maybe how they approach the topic, right? I might be doing something for like 2 or 3 years the same way. And I'm like, what else? How do other people, approach this? And then, you can kind of see what you like, what you don't like, and adjust your own kind of instruction from there. Or there's also sometimes like I just get stuck like anybody else. And I'm like, I cannot understand what I'm doing wrong, or like how I'm having this issue. So yeah, just looking up on YouTube and just kind of seeing how people are solving and explaining things is amazing. How long do you recommend studying per day, and do you think music helps? For me, it's kind of weird. Music doesn't help for me because it's like I like to follow the rhythm. I played music in high school, and I don't know, I kind of like get kind of too attached to it. However, I do like background music, like just non-rhythmic background, like for instance, I like to go to like a coffee shop or something just to hear other things. I don't like the silence. So I like having some kind of background music, but I don't like anything that has a kind of a rhythm or a routine to it, because I just kind of immediately get attached to it and I get distracted like anybody else. Well, El Tombado, well, thank you so much for that super chat. Hey, I really appreciate if you could do a quick review for a 9th grade algebra. I'm not sorry, I've watched a million times, please. Well, I'm not sure what I can do for you in a 5 minutes for 9th grade algebra. But if you go ahead and submit, yeah, I'm not sure, but you can definitely go ahead and submit on anything in the Discord or as well as on my Google form, and I'll be more than happy to see what other questions I can help you for your Algebra 1. But Algebra 1 is obviously a year-long course for most students, and so I would definitely say, maybe to give you a little bit of tips, I would definitely look into factoring. And if you can just focus and practice a lot of factoring, and that can definitely help you out immensely. I think factoring and like, solving equations, those two kind of like concepts, I think are going to serve you very, very well for very, very many years. So solving equations and factoring are just kind of two skills and techniques that you will use for the rest of your high school career. So obviously I have a lot of content on those, but if I was going to say like focus on two things, that's what I would pick, even though it's been a really, really long time since I have taught Algebra 1, but hopefully that was at least helpful. But always feel free to always submit questions here on the open Q&A. Nayeli says, I just started college and I've never taken a physics class. And now I'm in college physics. I've discovered your videos. I was doing a channel. Well, thank you. Help you once again. Well, very happy to be able to help. Good for you on taking the physics. I struggled with physics. I remember I was taking physics and like Calc 2 in college, and it was just, I had to drop the calculus. I couldn't focus. I had to drop physics because I couldn't focus on calculus. It was just too spread out or too much demand for me. So kudos for you, and I'm very happy my videos helped you out, because that's I'm much more of a pure math kind of student. So like the physics and the applications is just, just didn't really enjoy doing any of the math in physics. So I really had that hard kind of connection to it. So it was always kind of a difficult course for me to focus on as well as do the work on. I just didn't really care to do it. It was like one of those hard things to like get up, do my homework. I just never wanted to do it. I wasn't like excited about it. It was kind of boring for me. So not saying it's boring for everybody, because obviously physics is really cool though. Like it's very applicable to like real life and like actual situations, and you can apply so much more of it than just random pure math stuff. So definitely get it. Not a physics hater, just for me personally doing the math. Fully gonna say, wait, yeah, Exalta, I feel you, but I appreciate the compliment. Focused on. All right, I have an exam in an hour. Well, Michael, go ahead and get it. Good luck. Well, awesome. We're in, very happy, and I have a test on vectors and then through there. All right. Okay. Carl, you just got to keep on practicing. That's what it's in. Just keep on going ahead. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. There's no, you know, they, they're, people feel, and I sorry that feel, I think it's, I think it's difficult for students to, feel like like you have to feel done, like either you get it or you don't get it with math, because math is a journey, and it's not something about like you have to understand something now. Otherwise, if you don't understand it, then you're dumb. Like it takes time, so give yourself time, make sure you're putting in the work, make sure you're putting in the practice, right? Because it is a skill that you do have to practice and put into, but also understand that it takes time. And you can't compare yourself to anybody else. And I think the toughest thing about math, as how we currently have it, is we do have those timetables, right? You do have to learn certain concepts, by grades have to be turned in. And I think that's a tough thing, because I think when we put those things on students feel if they don't understand it at a certain time, or if they're not as good as somebody else, then yeah, they're inferior to them, or they're not as good as them, which is not the case at all with mathematics. So just keep on putting in the work and putting in the time. Yes, I can do system equations. If you have some questions, feel free to go ahead and submit them. But I got a lot of questions that got submitted, so I have to go and get to those students first for on that. We had a wow, that's a lot. It's so different in America. All right. All right, very good. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, guys, for posting so much of your questions. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on the math. And obviously, if you guys do have some questions that you'd like me to go ahead and address, we'll see how much time I have extra at the end, and then I will try to see what I can do for you guys. But I am going to go ahead and get on to the math. I did want to say thank you guys for giving me 75% of a good chance for reaching 1 million. My school is out on June 7th, so that's why I wanted to put this out from there. And also, thanks to you guys that worked with videos. Well, thank you again for the super chat. You are very awesome. You're turning into the favorite person on this live stream for me. I appreciate it. Thank you for everybody who recommend. What videos of yours do you recommend? So I will go a little extra. Well, if you go to my YouTube channel, and actually, you know what? Let me see. If I put it in, let me see. Let me show you actually. If I could show you right here where everything is at. Hold on. No. Nope. All right. If you go to my playlist, just want to show you something. And this is actually something important for everybody to really kind of see. There you go. So if you guys actually go to my playlist, what you will see is, again, like I have most of my videos, it's not everything, but majority of my videos are all under the playlist of my screen. So I have the calculus, I have pre-calculus, trigonometry, algebra 2, college algebra, geometry, and then this is where you would want to kind of focus on. So here it's just 29 playlists of Algebra 1. Now, again, it's been a while since I taught Algebra 1, so I know there's been a lot of updates to the curriculum from Algebra 1, Algebra 2, but, based on whatever you are taking, wherever you're at, I have a lot of playlists, and you can see that each one of these has quite a bit of videos in there. So, I don't have every single video of everything, but I have quite a bit, a lot. So pre-algebra, master left. So yeah, I got definitely a lot of things for you guys. Hopefully that is helpful for you. All right. The goat. I fell on my bike. Is it hard to keep those playlists? Yes, it is very hard to keep all those playlists updated. I actually have a couple people that work on that, and that's one of the things I do on my Well, thank you, Nostin. I very appreciate that super chat. Awesome. Thank you very much. But yeah, that's one of the things I do like each and every week. In addition to YouTube, like actually being like creating videos, I do a lot of my time is organizing stuff, like updating the playlists, organizing them. It's actually a lot of time. So let's go and get into some math because I know there's some people that do have some questions. So I do want to see if I can get you guys questions in from there. And I did attend Western Michigan University because I saw you, Chloe. And so I'll answer that question. So now let's go and get into, I got to change over my stream here. So let's see. All right. So let's get into some of these questions. The first one was, and also all of you 25% of my votes, I will expect you to be my 1 million subscribers. So as I'm getting close, I'm going to expect for you guys to come in for me, okay? All right, now I don't really do probability because it's been a really long time since I covered probability, so I don't really like teaching a lot of probability on the live streams just because, it's been a while since I taught it, so I want to make sure my explanations are, all kind of there all right. But I kind of read this one and it seemed pretty straightforward, so I feel pretty comfortable going in with the explaining the answer. But so this one said there's 80 students in school, and also I don't like doing word, like this is just a lot to cover. So when you're submitting questions, when you submit word problems or problems that have multiple steps, those kind of get put down to the end of the list, okay? Just because it's a lot to cover these on live streams. I like to cover questions that are kind of quick and to the point. So this one, we have 80 students in the school. All right. So every student is taking either algebra or pre-calculus. So that's going to be algebra, pre-calculus, or both, right? So some students are taking both, obviously. They say 16 students are in the algebra class, and 15 students are taking both algebra and pre-calculus. So there are 6 students in there, right? But 15 of them are also taking pre-calculus. So what is the probability that a random student, randomly selected student is taking pre-calculus but not algebra? So the important thing to kind of look at this is if you look at like maybe a Venn diagram. Okay, so we have algebra and we have pre-calculus. Okay, so in total we have 80 students. All right, now we have 60 students. Now 15 of them, okay, are taking algebra 2 or algebra and pre-calculus. Now we have a total of 60 though in algebra, because it just said there's 60 students in the algebra class. So obviously that's going to be 45. So if you think about this, well, if there's a total of 80, right? So we could do like this, and I guess we would put 80 in there. I can't remember actually for my Venn diagrams. That'd be my full set from there. So again, for this case, we could say that, well, then there has to be 20, right? Because this all needs to add into the 80. Actually, we'll just have to put that out. We know right now that's total out. The total number is 80. So that's going to be outside. So if you can see that this amount has to add up to 80, and the probability they're asking is for students that are taking pre-calculus but are not in algebra 2. So therefore, that's going to be 20 out of 80, which is equal to 1/4. Which is equal to 25%. Let me switch that, fix that. Okay. The next question says, I just want to know how to keep myself from distractions like electronics and stuff like that. I like these kind of questions just because it's a good mix from doing some math questions. So I would say to do it. Get yourself away from distractions. Like put them away. You said you get distracted from electronics, so put them away. Get away from it. Like literally, I cannot do same thing. Like when I have my phone, like with me, like I have to put it away. And yeah, like, and if it's maybe difficult for you, maybe just try doing like 15 minutes, do like short intervals. Just do like 15 minutes and then give yourself some leeway. Like, hey, I'll just go ahead and take a walk, or like listen or check my phone or, turn on the TV and then do another 15 minutes, and then try to increase that to 25 minutes and 30 minutes and maybe, eventually get up to an hour. But I think the best is like, if you're getting distracted from electronics or, music or anything, like just eliminating, get away from it. And, there's apps that they'll help you, avoid, apps that help you avoid, getting distracted online or going to the internet. Like take advantage of that stuff. So yeah, but I think if anything, like, yeah, just you got to get rid of it. You know, you got to be able to focus, and maybe just try focusing in small intervals. Question number 3. I definitely do not like doing this long veg, but this is one that's very similar to one that we do a lot in pre-calculus. So since I'm very comfortable with this one, it was one that I was like, all right, I'll do another word problem, or at least another word problem for a student. So the angle is flying low in fuel, and the pilot finds a large clearing, and farther ahead sees an airport. So here's the airplane. Okay, so draw an airplane. Oh man, you guys, some people are just, don't know why you guys show up. All right, so we have an airplane, right? So here's the airplane with the horizontal, right? It's flying, and let's say here's land. Okay, so we have a large clearing, so let's call that clearing. And farther says here the airport. All right, done. So the angle of depression from the airplane to the clearing is 42 degrees. So the main thing is when you're doing an angle of depression, it's from the horizontal. So the airplane is flying horizontally. So this angle of depression is always below, right? So that's going to be from this. So that's going to be 42 degrees. And then there's an angle of depression from the airplane to the airport, which is 41 degrees. So I'm going to kind of go from there. Okay, and that's going to be 41 degrees. Now, it says how far are the clearing in the airport? All right, so let's call this the distance. All right. So what we're basically going to do here is, I'm not going to solve this problem because it's going to take too long, and I don't like doing word problems for the live streams. But what I will do is I will at least set this up for the student to kind of give them an idea of how we could solve this. So what you're going to do is this creates a right triangle. But what it also does is you could also create 2 right triangles like this. Right? Okay, so if we create 2 right triangles, now if you did want to use these 2 right triangles, you just have to use the complement to find this. But just because these are kind of easier to understand, I'm just going to kind of go and draw these right here, because we already kind of know these 2 angles because these are what were given to us. So we'll go with these. All right, so if this is 42, now let's call this D1, right? So that's D1, and then this would be D2. Okay, so that's 42 degrees. And we don't know how long the distance is. But, oh yeah, that's going to be D1. And, oh, it says the height, the altitude is 1,500. There you go. And then this would be D2, and this is 1,500 as well. Okay, but this is 41. Okay, so the important thing I want you to understand is D, right? D is the distance, is the change between D2 minus D1. So all you need to do is use the tangent function to solve for D1 and solve for D2. Then once you figure that out, you can go ahead and just subtract those 2 values to find D. And that's basically what you want to do for that problem. All right, question number 4 says, create a trigonometric equation that would have the solutions theta equals pi over 4 plus pi halves n. So I thought this was interesting. I like this one. So let's kind of see where those solutions are. So here's pi over 4, right? And then if you add pi halves, that's going to take you over here, which is going to be 5 pi over 4. And immediately what I looked at in this case, what's important about this, the reason why this can be tricky is, sine is positive in the above the x-axis and negative below the x-axis. So that's kind of difficult to deal with sine. Same thing cosine. Cosine's positive to the right of the y-axis and negative to the left of the y-axis. So using an equation with sine or cosine is really going to be kind of difficult in this, if not impossible. I'm not sure. But I do recognize that tangent would be rather simple because tangent is positive in the first as well as positive in the third quadrant. So all I got to do is find a solution. And actually, I didn't even think about this. Find a solution that would just always equal, just tangent would equal pi over 4. So I could say, I don't know, tangent of theta equals, when you want it to equal 1, right? Wouldn't that work? Tangent of theta equals 1. And then you could say, that's going to be pi over 4 plus pi halves. Yeah, so there's my equation. Tangent of theta equals 1. Now, obviously, you could do more variations from there, but that should be a pretty fair, easy equation from there. All right, question number 5 says factorize that expression. So basically when you're looking at a factor, you just want to factor out the common element here, which obviously is just going to be an x. So by factoring out an x, you're just going to be left with a 3a I'm going to use brackets here and our grouping. So 3 minus A and then plus B. Okay. And again, you can always check your work with factoring by multiplying it back, right? You can always take this X and then multiply to each expression. So when you multiply by each expression, you obviously get back the exact same answer. So therefore I can verify that is the factored form. And basically, again, factoring is just go ahead and rewriting everything as a product. All right. Question number 6 says evaluate. Now, this one I did not really want. Actually, I don't want to do this. And I mean, I guess I could. I don't know. I guess I do have a calculator that's powered up. So, I mean, I guess we can do it. But thank you, Kay, for making me do a problem like this. There's a couple of things I want you to understand, though, from this. So, when you're doing a problem like this, you can distribute, since this is separated by multiplication, you can basically distribute here this. Yeah, this is going to be what we call the power to product rule. And the power to product rule, we just use some like basic ones. If I had like a to the m times a to the n raised to the k, well, that's equal to a to the mk times a to the nk. Okay, so you can actually use this distributive, kind of like not really distributive priority, but it's called the power to the product rule. So you can distribute the power across the product. So in this case, now again, it doesn't really matter if this is for this odd or even, because it's always going to become even. So what this is going to do is this is going to create this as a negative 16/19 to the, you can create this to the 14th power. And this would be times a negative 16/19 times the negative 14th power. Now, the important thing here, which is happening, actually, you know what? I see what's happening. Never mind. This is a lot easier than I was thinking. And actually, it doesn't even really matter. You actually don't even need to worry about that. Forget it. I mean, that's fine. But let's just simplify here. Let's not even do the math. I was wondering about this. I looked at it, I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. But if you think about this, guys, this is actually fairly easy because look what happens. Who knows what that is? Let's pretend it's even something we don't even have a calculator on, right? So, all right, fine. This is going to be negative 16/19, right? Squared. Well, when you have the negative, that's just the reciprocal. So this is going to be a negative 19/16 squared. So do you see what happens when you square these and you multiply them? That's just going to equal to 1. So then basically you're just going to have a 1 to the 7th power, which is just equal to 1. So there you go. Actually, I just made it so much easier. I figured it out a lot easier than I was originally thinking. So yeah, you could use the power to product rule, but that's kind of a waste of time, right? Even a waste of your calculator by looking into that. All right, question number 7, a 6th grader in my math channel. I love it. I look forward to continuing helping you on for a long year. You know, there's been some students that have said I've helped them throughout all of high school. I'm like, that is absolutely amazing. There's been one student and one student only that I've had for 3 years, and I almost had her for 4 years, but she took AP Stats, and I've never taught AP Stats, so I never got to teach her for that one last year. But I had her for 3 out of 4 years in high school. Like, that was crazy. So, very awesome student. And, but yeah, and I'm in a big school too. Like, I am not in a small school. I'm in a very large school. So the fact of having the same student for 3 years was kind of crazy. But yeah. So anyways, so hopefully I can continue helping you out. So this one, we want to solve for x. So when you want to solve for x, basically your idea here is to isolate the variable x. So you want to get the x on the same side first. So typically I like to get the x on the left-hand side, unless if it's going to be negative. And in this case, it would be negative. So I'm actually going to subtract the x on the left-hand side. And that's going to give me a 1 plus 7 equals, plus 6x. Okay. Then from here, I'll just subtract a 7. Oh, I'm sorry. So from now, you can see this is what we call a two-step equation. So now we just want to undo what's happening to our variable. So I'll subtract a 7 on both sides, and I get a negative 6 equals 6x. Divide by 6, and x equals a negative 1. And voila. And there you go. And you can always plug it back in your problem, and go from there. Question number 8 says y equals 3x plus 4. And I'm assuming there's a little comma here, like there's the point. Make the equation parallel to the point. So we want to write the equation of a new line that's going to be parallel. Okay. So in this case, basically what I like to do is I like to use what we call the point slope form. So the point slope form basically says like y2 minus y is equal to m times x2 minus x. Okay, so the y and the x represent any point on the graph, and the y1 or any point on the line, and the y1 x2, or I'm sorry, I'm using double point here, mixing up my point slope forms. And y1 x1 represent any coordinate point that actually lies on the line. So this one is the x1 and y1. Okay, so there's x1, y1, and then the random x and y just represent all the points. So that's going to be our equation of our line. And why am I doing it like that? You actually want to switch it up. You want to do y minus y1. Okay, so many of you might notice it like this. Y1 minus y1 equals m times x minus x2. So typically you want to use this slope form. I like using this slope form when you have 2 points. If you only have 1 point, then I use this form. Or I like to use that form. Now, if I want it to be parallel to this equation, that means I need it to have the same slope. So if this equation has a slope of 3, that means this equation is going to have a slope of 3. So now all I'm going to do is plug in my slope as well as my point. So I'll have y minus a negative 4, use parentheses, equals a 3 times x minus 6. Okay, so this is y plus 4. Let's distribute here. A 3x minus 18 minus 4, and y equals a 3x minus 22. And there you go. All right, I don't really like doing multiple questions. Typically when students send in multiple questions, I'm like, I can't answer them, and I'll maybe get you one, or maybe I won't get to any of them. So but for some reason, this one they all kind of went together. So I figured it was kind of nice to kind of explain this one. So, and this one says question number 2 for the rational function r of x. So all right. And then it says state the domain. So remember, the domain is going to be all values that are defined for a function, except for a couple, restrictions here. And one of the restrictions for a rational function that we can look at is making the denominator equal to 0. So basically what we want to do is factor this and kind of see what values would, if we were to plug them into the denominator, would make my denominator equal to 0. And I can see that's going to be an x minus 9 times an x plus 5. Okay, so my domain, I'll use interval notation, is going to be all real numbers except a 9 and a negative 5, right? Because if you were to plug in a positive 9, you get 0. If you were to plug in a negative 5, you would get 0. So domain notation or interval notation would be negative infinity to negative 5, union negative 5 to 9, union 9 to infinity. All right, so that'd be my interval notation there. Then it says determine the equations of 2 vertical asymptotes. So it doesn't have vertical asymptotes if it would get divided, right? And divided out, which would be a whole, which in this case we do not have the same expression in the numerator denominator, so it doesn't get divided out. And so the values of the horizontal asymptotes are going to be represented by the values that are not defined for your equations. That'd be x equals 9 and x equals negative 5. Okay, and then it says determine the equation of the horizontal asymptote or explain why there isn't one. In this case, there is not a horizontal asymptote because the denominator has a degree that is less than the degree of the numerator. So we could say no horizontal asymptote, and that is going to be per the horizontal asymptote test. Basically, this is, it's actually going to have looks like it's, since it's actually going to approach on a slant or an oblique from there. So that's why there's not going to be a horizontal from there. Or also looking at the horizontal asymptote test. Getting tired. It's been a long weekend. Note 10, could you please help me find the derivative? Sure, yes. So if we want to find the derivative, we want to go ahead and use the product rule. So by using the product rule, basically what you're going to do is we can see that this is 7t cubed times a negative t minus 3 raised to the 5th, right? So what the product rule is basically going to take is if we had like this is f of x, right? And this would be like g of x, okay? So you can see the product of these two. So we're going to preserve the first term, and then we'll find the derivative here of this binomial. And when we do that, we're just going to use the power rule here, but also the power and the chain rule. So this would be a negative 2t minus 3 to the 4, and then times a negative 2. Okay, and that's going to be added, not multiplied. Added now. Now we're going to take the derivative of this term of the first time, which would be a 3t squared. And then we'll preserve times a negative 2t. Negative 2t minus 3 to the 5th. And that's basically it. That's the product rule from there. Just got to make sure you do the chain rule for that one. That's where a lot of students will make their mistake. And then from here, you can simplify it. Why did I throw in an x? There's no x. That's a t. I didn't put an x anywhere else, did I? No. Okay. So now you can just, typically what the heck am I doing? I bring down the 7t squared. This one is when I bring down the 3. That's a 21. I'm like losing myself. All right, now I got to go and double check. That's fine. This gets preserved. Times 92, good. Bring that 21, that's t squared, good. Okay, so now you can just, typically you can like factor things out if you wanted to. You can factor out a 7t squared, right? If you factor out a 7t squared and also a negative 2t minus 3 to the 4th, you could factor all of that out. And therefore, you would be left with a 5 times negative 2 plus a 3 times a, negative 2t minus 3. Okay, and then you could further simplify that out, going from there. No, I'm not. Are you able to calculate? I can calculate some percentages, like 10%. But no, I'm not a human calculator from all that. So that is, I think that's a misconception of people. They're like, oh yeah, you must be good at math or you're a math teacher. Like, and yes, through doing a lot of math, I've gotten much better at doing calculations in my head and learning tricks. But yeah, it's like amazing. Like I'm not very like amazingly great of doing math in my head. Like actually that's where a lot of my mistakes come from, is doing too much math in my head. But yeah, you learn tricks, and you also like, you learn certain things throughout the end as well. So, all right, guys, I am going to just cover a couple things as far as submissions, even though I'm not really sure. Anyways, if you guys have more questions, feel free to add them into the chat. I'll kind of see what I can do. It's always kind of a weird, I'm going to mostly handle questions that I feel most comfortable explaining. Otherwise, then I just look like an idiot bumbling over my words and being like, I'm not really sure what I mean to say or what, where you're getting stuck. I've been there before. It's not very fun for me and for you, even though it's, some of you, you always get like your teacher, like, oh, you got confused or you're trying to think through it. It's like, yeah, it might be okay for in class. On live streams, it's a little different story. But yeah, feel free to add any questions. We still got some little time here for that. And then also, but while you guys are like kind of thinking of any other questions you guys want to do, remember you can always submit your questions in the Google form in the description down below of this live stream. Also, actually, man, you know what I wanted to do? I always forget to do this. I am going to go. There we go. I want to put this in there. I've wanted to see this. I don't know why I keep on doing this, because people are like, oh, where do I go? And I just got to pin the message, and now the message is up front. I keep on forgetting to do that. So anyways, if you guys do have any questions, there we go. Look at it. It's pinned. Beautiful. It's always up there. I love it. Now you guys can just go ahead and submit your questions in from there. It's much easier for everybody to see it. Then they're like, oh, where do I go? Where do I find it? And like, boom, it's right there for you. So anyways, the last thing I just want to make sure for the tips, and I guess I'm going to have to revise this. Guys, I can't answer every question. All right. I typically get live. I typically come here 30 minutes to like 45 minutes and just to try to go through as many questions as I can to put them up here. So you have to be very detailed with your questions. A lot of questions that did not get on this live stream. I had no idea what they were asking. Not because I had no idea what the math, I had no idea what the student wanted me to do. I don't want to waste your time or other students' time trying to just explain math if I don't know it's going to be helpful for you. So please be very detailed on where you kind of need help on or where you're having trouble with it. You're not sending me a problem to be like, I don't know how to do this problem. Then you got to be very detailed and specific on what you're doing and what you're needing help on. Also, it's been a while since I've taken calculus or taught calculus, so I am very limited on calculus and above questions. So, there's a lot of people that keep on submitting a lot of higher level math, which is awesome. It's just not at a time right now where, since I'm not teaching those courses, that I probably have a lot of that I'll be able to cover on these live streams. Also that goes for the same thing for sequences and series, probability, and even some coordinate geometry stuff. I'm just, I'm going through geometry right now teaching, and a lot of people are sending stuff. I'm like, I haven't taught that yet. Sorry. It's been a while. It's been 10 years since I taught geometry. So a lot of these questions, and the problem is it just takes me a while. I would have to look it up. I'd have to remember how to, what I taught or what to explain and how to explain it. And that's just too much time for me to be able to cover. So I do apologize for that, guys. But it's just the reality of, I'm just one human being, not able to answer everything. And then also word problems. I can tell you when you send in word problems, more likely than not, I do not spend too much time looking over them to submit, just because it's going to take too long on the live stream. And I don't want to handle, 20 minutes going over one question of a word problem. It's not, I know they're beneficial because I get them every week because students need help on them, and I know because they are hard. But it's just not a very good use of our time to be dealing with, some of those longer problems when I only have an hour to cover them. And then also when you do multiple submissions, just keep your question to once, guys. I have a lot of questions I have to go through. So if I'm seeing the same question, sent in over and over, it just gets a little frustrating, repetitive. So, all right. And I have taught calculus. I don't currently teach it from there. And rational function, I saw your question. I'm not really sure as far as the transformational form. I'm not familiar with that form. So if you can maybe explain that a little bit to me. I didn't have time to look it up. It's just not a form I'm familiar with. So if you can maybe re-explain what transformational form is, then I can kind of tell you if I can answer that one. But yeah, yours was a question. I'm not sure what that form was, or at least what you were referring to, because it's not a way that I describe the forms. So if you can maybe elaborate on that, that would be great. All right, a log question. Okay, I can do a log question. Find x. We'll see. We'll see what happens here. Looks fairly simple. Log of 2x minus 4 minus log of x plus 2. It looks pretty simple. That's always a dangerous way to look at a math problem that's getting submitted. What do I think is the toughest part of geometry? Proofs is very difficult because it takes a lot of time and a lot of people don't want to practice on it. And there's a lot of ways to interpret proofs. I think remembering all of the theorems and the definitions is very, very difficult in geometry. It's just something you need to stay on top of. I think usually sometimes students have trouble with, if you're going to do a topic, we'd probably maybe get into the circles kind of end if you just want to get in, but we haven't taught circles. So it's been a while. I'm just kind of going off of my memory and a little bit from there. Oh, a over x minus h plus k. Okay. So, all right, I gotcha. And yeah, and that's what I was thinking of. So I call that the reciprocal form. Okay. So I'm not really sure about yours, how it's going to work out, but I will go through it. X cubed plus 8. Okay, so I will transformational form. All right, so I will cover that for you. I think I have an idea of what you need to do. How do you find the terminal angle of 540 degrees? Terminal angle. You mean the terminal? Not really sure what the terminal angle is. You mean the terminal side? Because we have this initial side and the terminal side. Are you talking about coterminal angle? I'm assuming it's a coterminal. How do you find one coterminal angle? It's just going to be add and subtract 360. So I'll just answer that from there. So if you have, I'm assuming it was coterminal angles for 540, you're just going to add and subtract 360 from there. All right, solve inequality and graph. Please give me an example and I'll maybe go ahead and do it. Ethan, what was your question? Or you just put it, I'm not going to be able to get to the open questions, guys, because I'm just going to cover a couple questions that I have tonight. But I look at all of those open Q&A questions that you guys have. I will address those for next week. So if you do have any questions that you'd like me to address right now, then go ahead and put them in. Derivative, I will not be able to cover from as far as more of the derivative in terms of in that one. Sorry for that. Well, thank you very much, QT. They are coterminal. Okay, yeah, I'll be able to cover that. Find X. Solve an equation. 5.2. I guess you would have to use. Okay, all right, Ethan. I'll go through this question. It seems like it's going to be calculator based, so I mean, I'll kind of show you what I would do. Doesn't look very fun. That's x minus 8. Okay, x minus 8 degrees minus 1 equals -3. Okay, well, I'll show you. I think I would do with this. I've never done a problem like this, but maybe I'll just kind of go from there. Okay, now we're getting into multiple questions. All right, this is always what happens. Open questions and the questions come. Show the value of OP is not. So I'd have to look at that. It looks like a good problem, but it'd have to be something I'd have to go and look at or think about from there, which is not something I have the time or the mental capacity at the moment to go through. But so sorry, Dick. Sorry, I do appreciate though sending that question. Direction that I thank you so much for submitting all that, but that is just a lot to try to go ahead and interpret and to make sure that I got that right. So feel free to go ahead and submit that into the Google form where you can like take a picture and submit a picture or use Google Chat. And then I will maybe can look at it that way. So it's always helpful. That's why I used to do my super chats. I used to do the Q&As like that. And it was just so confusing, but it's so much more better if you can like write it out or type it out, and then we can go from there for that question. All right. So I am going to end up with these two questions because therefore I can at least explain these, at least to the best of my ability. And then we'll go from there. Okay. So I do apologize, guys. If you do have any more questions, feel free to just go ahead and add them into the Google chat, or the Google form, or as well as Discord, which is the comment that has been pinned. But well, there you are very welcome, Olivia. And Ryan, I failed my quiz because of this. The graph to the right is a complete graph. Oh, that's a lot of questions out, Ryan. It's 8 instead of -8. What was that, Ethan? Oh, okay, so that's x plus 8. Okay. All right, so let's go through these 3 questions. That's a little bonus. I like doing bonus. That's good. All right, so in this one, you're just going to use the quotient property of logarithms. All right, so we're going to go ahead and rewrite this as log of, so that's going to be 2x minus 4. So these are log base 10 of x plus 2 equals 1. Now I can just rewrite this in exponential form, where I use the property of logarithms to raise to the base 10 here. And basically what I'll get is a 10 to the first power equals 2x minus 4 all over a x plus 2. Okay, well now I can get this off the denominator, so I'll multiply an x plus 2 on both sides. Okay, and by doing that here, I get a distribute. Let's distribute a property here. Since I didn't really give myself a lot of space, what I'll do is I'm going to move this. We'll switch these around. All right, so now I'll go ahead and apply a distributive property here. So that's a 10x. So it's a 10x plus 20 equals a 2x minus 4. Subtract the 2x. Let's subtract the 20. And let's see, I get a 8x is equal to a negative 24. Divide by 8, divide by 8. X equals a negative 3. Okay, now it is very important, though, to make sure that we plug this in to make sure that this works for our equation. And what happens here is we recognize that when we plug in negative 3 into this equation, as long as I did this correctly, check me in there. When I plug in negative 3, I get a logarithm for this, which is going to be in extraneous solutions, because if I had like the log base 2, of 8 equals 3. Well, let's pretend this was like a negative, right? So what this is saying is like 2 raised to the third power, like that can never equal a negative 8, right? You can't take the 2 raised to the third power and it's going to equal a negative value. So therefore, these two answers are going to be extraneous. So make sure when you're solving, you plug it back in to make sure it's not an extraneous solutions, which in this case it is. All right, so for the next question, the way that I would do this problem, which would be, all right, so that's 12. 13, here's 14. Okay, so the way that I would do this is I would solve this like this. 5.2 times the sine of, let's say, alpha minus 1 minus 3. Okay, so again, from here now, we're just going to add a 1, equals a negative 3. Okay, so we add a 1, all right, and then we get a 5.2 equals what? Sine of alpha equals negative 2, right? So all I'm doing is I'm just saying let alpha equal a 45 times x plus 8. Like that's just a lot, right? So let's just use alpha right now, and we'll just use this little substitution. And somehow I created 2 equal signs. I don't want 2 equal signs. Okay. And then I am going to divide by 5.2. Okay, so now I have the sine of alpha is equal to, running out of space here, and so therefore, I don't know what this is, so it's going to be negative 2 divided by 5.2. Okay, so this is going to be negative 0.38446, And then from here, well, now what you can do is you can basically now you can say, all right, well, instead of sine of alpha is equal to this, like this is what those, and then this would be from the negative pi halves. Oh man, that'd have to be, okay, yeah, and then you have to basically set in from there, and now you can go ahead and let 45, yeah, because now that becomes a little bit different, because now it's going to be sine, and when you do the sine inverse, so using a calculator actually makes this a little bit more difficult from on there, because then you'd have to basically also find not only the first quadrant, but you'd also have to go and find the second one. So that's going to give you the second quadrant as well as, so this is going to give you the fourth quadrant as well as the second quadrant. Confusing. And then you have to divide those. All right. I haven't done these with calculators in a really long time. So my explanation is not going to be as well, but again, that's what I get with accepting some random questions at the end. So, all right. So if I was going to solve for this angle, what I do is I get this angle right here, okay, which is a negative 22.619 degrees. However, this angle is, no, not that one, not that angle. This angle is also going to give me the exact same. right? Because again, the sign, the y coordinate is also going to be negative down here. However, your calculator is restricted to only the first and the fourth quadrant. So your calculator is only going to give you this answer. So basically, you need to be able to figure out what it is going to be for this answer. So therefore, if you would add, so it's going to be 22. So basically, add 180. And that's going to be a 202. So that'd be 180 plus 202. So that's going to be also a 202.619 degrees. Okay. So basically what I did is, yeah, I took that answer. I took this as the reference angle and added to that. So, oh, man. Either way, let's just go ahead and find this one angle. So now you can say, all right, well, that was for theta, right? So I could say theta equals, yeah, that's fine, negative 22.619, as well as theta equals 202.619. But again, remember, theta we let equal 45 times x plus 8. So then I'd say 45 times x plus 8 equals negative 22.619. 40 times x plus 8 equals a 202.619. And now you just go and solve for x. So you divide by 45 and subtract 8. And hopefully, if I did that correct, that would be the correct process. But typically, the way that we do our trigonometric equations, at least in my class, is we're just dealing ones that are going to be based on the unit circle. So it's been a while for me to use them with the calculator. So hopefully it helps, but I'm not going to take take too much confidence that I did the best job explaining the process. The main thing I'd say is use your inverse operations to get to this point. Okay. Now, typically from this point, if we have the answer using the unit circle, you're going to have those two solutions from the unit circle. In this case, we have to find the two solutions using your calculator, and that's tough because your calculator is only going to give you one answer. Although we didn't really know what the restrictions were on your answer. But so in this case, your calculator is only going to give you one answer, right? Because your calculator is restricted in the first and the fourth quadrant. So what I did was I figured out the other angle that would also work, at least within 0 to 2 pi. And then what you do is once you find that angle, just replace your theta or your alpha with your original equation. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Man, Melinda, how many times have you had to explain what happened to my face? I thought my face was like healing up. This is every single time I look up there, I have to keep on seeing that people are making comments about my face. Man, so long ago. All right, let's get into the last question. So transformational form. So in this case, all you simply want to do is just use long division. So you're just going to do x cubed plus 8 divided by x cubed plus 9. Okay, so when you're using long division, basically you're going to divide the first term of your divisor into the first term of your radicand. So x cubed or radicand. So x cubed goes into x cubed. That's going to be 1 time. 1 times x cubed is x cubed. 1 times 8 is a positive 8. Subtract the rows. When you subtract the rows, you get 1. I keep on noticing. Thank you. And x cubed is not going to 1. So that is going to be what our remainder is. Okay. So, what did this say? Yeah. So you can say, so if you take your remainder, you take your quotient. So your answer here, so my q of x, which is going to be your transformational form. Okay. The answer is 1 plus the remainder all over your divisor. Okay. So the remainder, right? This is the remainder. I'm sorry. This is the quotient, right? This is the remainder. And this is the divisor. So then I can just rearrange this to put in your transformational form you're referring to, which is 1 over x cubed plus 8 plus 1. All right. Yes, I am not in there from on there. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you so much for staying on with me in the stream. Again, remember you guys can post your questions available for me on next week. I'll be going live on my again for another open Q&A. So I look forward to seeing you guys on then. Otherwise, guys, hopefully have a great rest of your week. And I look forward to seeing you guys next Sunday. All right. Cheers.